Good morning, everyone. Today we will discuss about the disorders of the coagulation or coagulation disorder. I am Dr. Bhupendra Saha, Assistant Professor of Department of Internal Medicine, BP Koirala Institute of Health Sciences. So what we are going to learn today? We are going to learn first about the coagulation cascade. It is necessary for you people to understand about the coagulation disorder. And we'll classify the coagulation disorder. We'll evaluate how to evaluate the coagulation disorder, and we'll just discuss briefly about the one of the classical coagulation disorder, that is hemophilia. So what are the stages of hemostasis? Let's suppose if you have a cut by a knife, or if you have an injury, that there, like when the vessel get disrupted, there can be the bleeding. What will be the response of our body if there is a vessel injury? The first response that our body is going to show is vascular spasm. As a terminology, there is the constriction of the involved vessel, there is a vessel spasm. And second is there is the activation of the platelet. First platelet will aggregate it there, it will get activated, and ultimately it forms the platelet plug, but it is not strong enough. Then the coagulation cascade will be activated, and the ultimate product of which is the fibrin. It is a mesh-like structure, strands rule. That's why there are three processes that will occur if you got injury. That is vascular spasm, platelet plug formation, and blood clotting. So today we are not going to discuss about vascular spasm and platelet plug formation. We are going to study about the disorder of the blood clotting. So if we have to compare the clotting factors with the building material, it is just like the rods, like the iron rods. It is just like iron rods. You can make a wall only with the brick and the sand, but if there is no rod, it is not that much strong. So there must be the formation of some like fibrous strand, which can be formed by the activation of coagulation cascade. Okay, so these are the clotting factors. These are the typical medical entrance questions, like what is this clotting factor? So there is factor 1 is fibrinogen, factor 2 is prothrombin, factor 3 is tissue thromboplastin, factor 4 is calcium ions. When I was preparing for medical entrance, there is like mnemonical CAT-PROF from 4 to 1. Ca, calcium, T, tissue thromboplastin or tissue factors, 2 is prothrombin, F means fibrinogen. Similarly, there is Laval factor and stable factors. Factor 8 is the anti-hemophilic factors. That is factor 9 is the Christmas factor. Factor 10 is Stewart power factor. Factor 11 is plasma thromboplastins. Factor 12 is Heisman factors, and factor 13 is fibrin stabilizing factors. Okay. So if there is injury, there are two pathways. One is intrinsic pathway, another one is extrinsic pathway. The initial factor that is going to activate in intrinsic factors is the factor 12. This one is factor 12. Okay, who is on activation converted to the 12A. A is the active form of any clotting factors. This active form of factor 12 convert the factor in 11 to the activated factor 11. Now 11 to active factor 11, which convert factor 9 to active 9. Okay, these are from factor 12. From factor 12 it will get it activate the factor 11. From 11 to it activate the factor 9, and the active product of the factor 9 and the factor 8, okay, factor these things, factor 8 will ultimately activate the factor 10, and for to factor 10, factor 10 with the help of activated factor 5 convert to the factor 2 to factor 2a, that is thrombin, and from thrombin ultimately the fibrin get formed. So here factor 12, factor 11, factor 9, this one is factor 12, this is factor 12, factor 11, factor 9 and factor 8 are the clotting factors responsible for intrinsic pathway. Okay, that is what you need to understand. Similarly, extrinsic pathway, the factor responsible for the extrinsic pathway is factor 7. Okay, factor 7 is the extrinsic pathway, and which also activate the factor 10. So factor 7 is a clotting factor of the extrinsic pathway. Okay, from factor 10, there is a start of the common pathway. Okay, now let us revise again. So factor 7 is the factor of the extrinsic pathway. Factor 12, 11, 9 and 8 are the factors of intrinsic pathway. From factor 10, they start the common pathway. Why we need to know? Because intrinsic pathway are monitored by APTT. This is one of the important questions and also useful in clinical practice. APTT. So if you suspect anybody is having factor 12 deficiency, then we have to analyze the APTT. There is a prolongation of APTT, activated prothrombin thromboplastin time. If there is a factor 7 deficiency or extrinsic pathway defect, then there is the prolongation of PT only, that is prothrombin time. So APTT give us an idea about intrinsic pathway, PT give us an idea about the extrinsic pathway. So if there is any factors which involve after 10, like if there is a from up 10 or 2 or 1 like that, then there is prolongation of both PT as well as APTT. Suppose if someone has prolonged PT, normal APTT, then you have to think about factor 7 deficiency. If someone has prolonged APTT but normal PT, then you have to think about deficiency of factor 12, factor 9, factor 8, like that. Okay. If someone has the deficiency of like prolongation of both PT and APTT, then you have to think about the deficiency of factor 10. This is how we analyze the case of coagulation disorder, and this is the basic knowledge about the coagulation disorder that you people must know. Okay, this you people must know. What are the types of coagulation disorder? To coagulation disorders, like it has a two broad type. One is inherited coagulation disorder, another is acquired coagulation disorder. Inherited coagulation disorder like hemophilia, von Willebrand disease, and other individual factor deficiencies. Like hemophilia is a conditions where the deficiency of factor 8. Hemophilia B is a condition where the deficiency of factor 9, like that. Okay. So if there is a deficiency of certain coagulation factors, then that is what we call the coagulation disorder. These are the inherited conditions. These one are inherited conditions. Okay. But there are certain acquired conditions where the factors, clotting factors are deficient, like vitamin K deficiency. Vitamin K is useful for formation of vitamin K dependent clotting factors like factor 2, factor 7, factor 9 and factor 10. Okay. So if the vitamin K is deficient, then these factors is going to be deficient. So certainly in a patient with liver disease, there is a deficiency of coagulation factors because it is the site where the coagulation factors are produced. Similarly, in case of disseminated intravascular coagulations, where there is excessive consumption of these coagulation factors, there can be a deficiency of the clotting factors and ultimately cause the coagulation disorders. Okay, in our clinical scenario, in day by day, we get oftenly the patient with acquired coagulation disorders rather than inherited coagulation disorders. These are quite rare conditions. Like we often get the patient with liver disease and with some features of the coagulation disorder. Okay. So when to suspect coagulation disorder in clinic? Simple. If there is a recurrent bleeding, if there is a history of bleeding, then we have to suspect, doctor, I have a history of epistaxis, I have a history of gum bleeding, I have a history of excessive menstrual blood flow. Then we have to think about the coagulation disorders. If there is a history of large joint bleeding, doctor, I have hematoma over my right knee, doctor, I have a hematoma over my left knee, doctor, I have a right knee swelling, like then we have to think about the coagulation disorders. And delayed bleeding, like if we have a bleeding after like few hours of the trauma, then that is a classical case of delayed bleeding. In that scenario, you have to think about the coagulation disorder. Similarly, presence of ecchymosis, the large blood patch in the body, हैन, कसैले विच बाइट मार्क पनि भन्छ, बोक्सीले टोके जस्तो भन्छ, ecchymosis, then you have to think about the coagulation disorder. Okay, so what are the phases of coagulation disorder? Let us look. Okay, so this one is, you can see this one is the petechiae. Okay, this one is small pinpoint. The size is less than 3 mm size. If the size is 3 mm to 3 centimeter, then we call it purpura. Okay, if it is larger than that, we call it ecchymosis. Okay, so if you see this type of red spots in the body of your patient, then you have to think of the coagulation disorders. Similarly, especially in a child, if you see this type of knee swelling, okay, then we have to think of the coagulation disorder, because one of the cause of this type of knee swelling is the joint hematoma. And if there is a history of the gum bleeding, and if there is a history of epistaxis, definitely you have to think of the coagulation disorder, and you have to work up in the line of the coagulation disorder. Lab evaluation, as an MBBS student, you need to know about the certain normal values of the certain parameters. Like when you are evaluating a patient with this type of bleedings, then definitely you have to do the complete blood count, because one of the cause of this type of bleeding is the thrombocytopenia, that is low platelet count can also cause this type of bleeding. So that's why you need to see the platelet count level, normal count of which is 1.5 to 4 lakh per mm cube. Similarly, prothrombin time, the normal level is 10 to 16 seconds, most of the books give, but still you can take 10 to 13 seconds. Similarly, APTT level is 25 to 36 seconds. So if there is a, suppose if you get a report of prothrombin time like 18 seconds, it is prolonged. So you have to think about the factor 7 deficiency. If you get a APTT more than like 40, then you have to think about the defect of extrinsic pathway. If there is a prolongation of both PT time and APTT, then you have to think of the common pathway. Like suppose, let's a classical example, a patient with APTT time more than 50 seconds, and you have to think about coagulation disorders, and it may be like a case of hemophilia, because hemophilia there is a factor 8 deficiency, and 8 is a factors of the intrinsic pathway. That's how we diagnose a patient with coagulation disorder. So INR is simple. INR, so clinic we often calculate the INR. It's just a ratio of the prothrombin time of the patient with the normal reference range squared by the International Sensitivity Index. It depends upon the climate, temperature, altitude. Okay, so we just calculate the INR, and normal INR is 1 for us. Okay. So if there is a prolonged MRI, prolonged INR, then it means that the prolongation of prothrombin time. Similarly, we just discuss. Let us discuss about the hemophilia. Hemophilia is the condition. As I have already told you, it is one of the genetic conditions of the coagulation disorder, where there is a mutation of F8 gene, that is in case of hemophilia A, and F9 gene in case of hemophilia B. Classically, it occurs only in male, and because it is the conditions, it is the X-linked recessive conditions. That's why you get the feature of hemophilia only in male. Okay, so female are usually the carrier of these conditions. So in a patient with hemophilia, they have a deficiency of factor 9 in case of hemophilia A, and factor 8 in case of hemophilia A, and factor 9 in case of hemophilia B. but all the patients do not have the similar type of the symptoms. It depends upon the residual activity of the these factors. So if your patient have less than 1% activity, is a severe hemophilia. If they have a residual activity level of 1 to 5%, the moderate hemophilia. If someone has a 6 to 30% of clotting factor activity, then it's a mild hemophilia. Okay, so lesser the residual activity level, more severe is the condition. So the clinical feature, as I've already told, the common clinical feature is joint bleeding, especially in the child male. They present with the history of joint bleeding because of the which they present with the swelling of the joint, and they may have history of bleeding after the trauma, but some of the time they are asymptomatic, just on doing the normal laboratory evaluations. We get prolongation in the APTT level, and we may have to think about the hemophilia. Okay, so let us discuss. So what will happen to the platelet count in a patient with hemophilia? Normal, yes, platelet count will be normal in case of hemophilia. What happened to the bleeding time? It will be also normal, because bleeding time usually reflects the activity of platelet. That's why bleeding time is also normal. What happens to the prothrombin time? Normal or abnormal? Normal, because in a hemophilia there is a deficiency of factor 8, but prothrombin time reflects the activity of factor 7, so it's normal. But APTT will be prolonged, because APTT assay the activity of intrinsic pathway. That's why it will be prolonged in a patient with hemophilia. Okay, so what is the treatment of choice? Depending upon the clinical presentation and the activity level. So most of the time we give the cryoprecipitate transfusion. It contains the factor 8 and sometimes factor 9. We just transfuse the cryoprecipitate to the patient. Okay, and if it is not available, then we can try with this type of molecule like desmopressin acetate. It's a non-transfusion therapy, but these are not that much effective. Okay, the treatment of choice is the cryoprecipitate. So sometimes we can try with the tranexamic acid, is the antifibrinolytic drugs. Okay, in a patient with hemophilia. So as an MBBS student, as you know about some of the coagulation disorders, what is coagulation cascade, and like, okay, that's enough for you people. So let us revise one again. So coagulation disorder is of two types, inherited and acquired. Though inherited type is interesting one, but we often get a patient with acquired coagulation disorder, classically a patient with liver disease who present with the symptoms of the coagulation disorders. The common presentation of coagulation disorders are joint bleeding, gum bleeding, bleeding after trauma, and large blood patches. These are the common clinical presentation. Prothrombin time assess the activity of extrinsic pathway, that is factor 7. APTT assess the activity of intrinsic pathway, that is factor 12, 11, 9, and 8. And hemophilia is one of the classical genetic coagulation disorder, which shows the typical X-linked recessive patterns, and that's why often see in a male patient, females are usually carriers. They require cryoprecipitate as a treatment. Okay, thank you so much for your kind attention. I think as an MBBS student, this is enough for you people. You can read books and the review articles for the further knowledge. Thank you.